Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and in this video I'm going to tell you about ketogenic protein powders and whether or not they're a scam. So the short answer is yeah, they're all scams. That's the short answer. Doesn't mean every single product is going to be, but here's how you can kind of tell and understand what compass I'm using to recommend this. So basically, for any product that sells you on a certain macronutrient ratio, so a product that sells you on you have to be eating 70% fat, 20% protein, 10% carb, that is the golden ratio of keto. Anything that sells you on that, whether it's a protein powder or a protein bar, any sort of supplement that sells you food in that ratio just because of the ratio, is generally not necessary at all. And really, it's selling you on more than you actually need to be consuming. So just as a fundamental distinction here, the only requirement you need to be in ketosis is not eating carbohydrates. So anybody that's telling you you need to eat high amounts of fat, or the ratio of your fat to protein needs to be this, or it needs to be 70-20, or it needs to be 80-20, whatever it is, you don't need to, there's no magical process in your body that just goes, the second your body is in, oh, I've detected there's 80% fat compared to 20% protein, therefore better ketones. That's not the way it works. This is very much a linear thing. It's very much that after you've cut out carbohydrates, the more fat you eat, the more ketones you'll have, because you're eating those fats from your meals, which are then getting converted into ketones. So certain types of fats are going to be more conducive to creating ketones, but not all fat is equal. And it doesn't necessarily matter that, your ratio ends up being 80%, because if you're eating 80% of garbage, you're obviously not going to feel as good as you should. With these protein powders, besides the fact that most of the extra stuff that's thrown in there is basically just fillers and filler fats. What they're doing is basically selling you a protein powder that has many more calories than you need. If you're not doing a keto diet for fat loss, then you can eat this as a meal replacement, and it's perfectly valid, right? There's nothing wrong with that. If you did want to order one of these protein powders when you're not trying to lose weight, that's totally fine. However, you're much better off literally just consuming a tablespoon of good quality MCT oil and saving your calories for the rest of your meals. Just eat, there's very few people who struggle to eat all their calories, there's very few people who have a hard time hitting their fat loss calories on a keto diet because you're so satiated. It's rare that you find a person who needs to have a powder or a concentrated calorie product to hit their calorie goals on a keto diet. Everybody's just so satiated and not hungry. They're hungry because the foods that you're eating are typically more nutrient dense, and they're more dense in energy. This is why fats have 9 calories per gram compared to carbohydrates, which have 4. With 1 gram of fat, you're getting basically double and a little bit more the energy of carbohydrates. So this is also why you are not going to be as hungry or as fatigued on a keto diet, because you're getting more energy out of the same amount of calories. So, out of the same amount of grams of food you would be consuming. So, as far as a keto protein powder, most of the ingredients in these things are going to be MCTs, but that's a fancy way to also mask that, those MCTs might not be the highest quality MCTs. They might all be lauric acid, which is a very, let's just say, lower quality MCT. It shouldn't even technically be called an MCT, but maybe some of these products, like the one I threw in the thumbnail, do have good quality MCTs in there, because I saw they had the caprylic acid in there. But all of these ingredients are just basically protein powder at a much lower, gram quantity, and they're throwing in a bunch of other fats, probably filler fats, and they're also throwing in a decent amount of carbohydrates, which are probably not from the best sources really for a keto diet. So they're probably from higher glycemic sources, so more dense in sugar, because it's hard to throw in fibrous carbs into a powder like that without overdoing it. And Overall, they're selling you a powder which is low in protein, high in fat, which is basically going to take up all of your calories, and it's probably not even going to be from the best sources of fat because it's, you know, it's stored on a shelf. It's not the best source for fat. Fat is much better off consumed, you know, fresh. And they're also throwing in carbohydrates, which you would presumably be able to use your limited amount of carbohydrates on vegetables or other. You can kind of use them as a safety net for, you know, your salad dressings or other foods that you're consuming that might have hidden carbs. So you don't want to be taken away from your safety net. You want to be, you know, leaving more room in that safety net of carb intake for the day. So overall, are these products a scam? I say yes, unless you are trying to just live a ketogenic lifestyle and you want a meal replacement. What kind of person would need that? Someone of a very small minority of the population. However, if that's your interest, they're not a scam. But if you're trying to lose fat and they're selling you on a very high calorie product with protein powder, which might be very insulinogenic, so spiking your insulin depending on what source it's from, and overall they're selling you on fillers. So in that event, yes, this is absolutely a scam. Don't spend your money on it. If you're looking for a keto protein, just get a protein powder that is either a blend. You can get a whey isolate, but I have a video on how to properly use whey isolate as well, because it can spike your insulin. But safe bet is a casein protein, as long as you don't have any, you know, intolerances to casein, because some people do, and some people have some reactions to casein protein. So as far as that concerns you, you know, keto protein is not necessary at all in terms of keto protein powders or keto protein bars, especially if they're sold in a ratio, because the only thing you need to be ketogenic is to cut out carbohydrates. And eating more calories is never going to be beneficial on any sort of diet. You should, in terms of fat loss diet, eating enough calories is always the balance, the sweet spot you want to be in on any diet. So hopefully this video gave you some clarity. Hopefully it educated you on some of the principles behind what I'm using to assess the topic at hand here. So hopefully you benefited. Leave me a like if you did, subscribe, and click my little notification bell. Overall, you know, leave a comment and I'll get back to you. So, and follow my Instagram. I don't have any more plugs. Peace.